This video is brought to you by Squarespace. At long last, I'm heading back to Johto with this series. Today we're going to find out which box art legendary has the easiest time beating Pokemon Crystal. Will it be Lugia, the Lord of the Sea, the defensive bird with hands? Or Ho-Oh, the fiery phoenix that Ash saw at the start of the anime? It's also the Pokemon that caused me to walk around this room for months as a kid. Here's how these videos work. My goal is to determine which Pokemon can beat the game with greater ease, so I'll do multiple playthroughs of the game with each Pokemon until a clear winner has emerged. To judge each Pokemon's performance in these playthroughs, I'll use these metrics. I favor real time above the others because at heart, I think that I'm a speedrunner. Also, I think that we all just want to know how long I sat at my computer filming this content. For each playthrough, I follow my typical solo challenge rules: only my starter in battle, no items in battle except for held items, no glitches or exploits, and no using the TM for double team before level 100. I've left a detailed copy of these rules in the description in case you want to reference them later. Now, it's story time. As a kid, I bought Pokemon Silver, and I didn't do this because I liked Lugia a lot. I honestly wasn't particularly drawn to either of these legendary birds. I bought Silver for a different reason. My best friend had Pokemon Gold, and I really didn't want to have the same game as him. I knew that there were version exclusives at that point, and it only made sense for me to have the other version so that we could both complete the Pokédex together. As many of you may know, both of these legendaries are actually available within each of the games, but the box art legendary is available to the player at level 40 before the Elite Four, while the opposing version's legendary is only available once the player reaches Pewter City in Kanto. So I played through the game and got myself a level 40 Lugia, but I quickly boxed it because it couldn't one-shot anything. After that, I spent hours and hours wandering around the bottom floor of Tin Tower. I listened to this music so much, it is forever burnt into my mind. My mom finally let me buy the official strategy guide for the game, and then I obtained the Rainbow Wing and caught Ho-Oh, and quite frankly, it was amazing. It one-shot all my opponents with Sacred Fire, and that felt so good. This is because Ho-Oh has incredible offensive stats, 130 base attack and 110 base special attack. When reviewing its stats in preparation for this video, I was actually slightly surprised because I thought it had better special attack. I also didn't realize that it had so much special defense, 154. Unfortunately, its physical defense isn't great and it's not particularly fast either. Base 90 speed? What? So it's partly a special wall, part physical attacker with special attacks for coverage, but it doesn't move very fast or stand up very well to physical type moves. Lugia, the water flying type, it shares a typing with Venomoth, of course. It's definitely a water type. It's designed to be the exact opposite of Ho-Oh, which is a fire type. It just makes sense. It has balanced offensive stats with 90 in attack and special attack, excellent defense, 130, and the same base special defense as Ho-Oh. What I find most interesting about it is that its speed stat is very high. Typically, offensive Pokemon are paired with higher speed and defensive Pokemon are paired with lower speed. This duo flips that assumption though. I wonder how that's going to make an impact on these playthroughs. Of the two, I prefer Ho-Oh's stats for a playthrough because 90 base speed is enough to move first against almost every opponent once some stat experience has been accumulated. Also, using only one Pokemon for the entire game tends to lead to overleveling, widening the speed gap even more. Plus, it's worth noting that Whitney's badge gives your speed a 12.5% boost, so after the third gym, Ho-Oh's probably not going to move second. Ho-Oh is weak to water and electric attacks, and doubly weak to rock type attacks. Because it has 154 base special defense, the water and electric attacks shouldn't hit that hard, but its 90 base defense leaves it very vulnerable to any rock type Pokemon. Luckily for it, there are only a few Pokemon in Generation 2 that know any rock type moves. Lugia has 5 weaknesses: Rock, Ghost, Electric, Ice, and Dark. All of these are single weaknesses, so Lugia is never going to take 4 times damage. I think that this is a really excellent advantage as a tank. Also, Electric, Ice, and Dark moves are all special in this generation, and yeah, it has great special defense. So Ghost and Rock are really the only major threats. When examining the moves, they learn a few things that stick out to me. They have nearly identical level up moves. They learn all their moves actually at the exact same levels. Ho-Oh gets the fire type moves, and Lugia gets the water type moves. That makes sense, right? Through TMs and HMs, they have access to a diverse and incredible list. Curse, Hyper Beam, Giga Drain, Dragon Breath, Earthquake, Return, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Mud Slap, Swift, Steel Wing, and Fly. But Lugia gets a small advantage here, also learning Blizzard, Icy Wind, and Surf. Another water move. Makes a lot of sense that Lugia learns that water move, right? I personally think that Ho-Oh is going to win. Normally the Pokemon with the better offense and speed wins. I know that Ho-Oh is slower, but I don't think that that's going to matter that much. The fact that it hits hard should be enough to steamroll the entire game in a series of one-hits. That alone is going to probably make it faster than Lugia. Here's what the community thinks, and it seems that Lugia is the strange favorite. I just didn't think that this would be the case. I thought that a lot of people would really underestimate it. I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Cyndaquil with Ho-Oh because it's weak to Totodile. Honestly, in these Generation 2 games, this choice always doesn't have a big impact. The rival starter doesn't learn many good moves, especially when he chooses Totodile. For Lugia, I also replaced Cyndaquil because access to water moves makes facing a fire type easy for Lugia. It's a water type after all, right? And facing the Chikorita line when my starting move is going to be Aeroblast just feels far too easy. Normally, I set Hidden Powers type now to give the Pokemon I'm running the best possible coverage, but today I'm not going to do this. I think that the move pool diversity paired with perfect DVs and these legendary base stats will be more than enough for each of them to make it through the game with ease. If my first playthrough identifies serious barriers that each of them face, then I'll set Hidden Power in follow-up playthroughs to make each of them go a little bit faster. Lugia starts with its signature move, Aeroblast, a 100 base power flying type move with 95% accuracy and 5 PP. Other than the tiny amount of PP and the slight lack of accuracy, this move is great. The tiny PP isn't even that bad early on because once it runs out, I can just struggle through the fights. It's really easy this way. The first rival is a complete breeze, an Aeroblast, or two, because the first one misses, but the second one crits and knocks the Totodile out in a single hit. Outside of Violet City, I grab Bellsprout, my regular cut, and Flash Mule, and then I proceed to Sprout Tower to grab the first HM. I know this area is optional, but I really like to complete it in all my playthroughs if the Pokemon does well in here. In this section of the game, I'm trying to prevent backtracking as much as possible. Because of that, I have to face the final Sage with Struggle. I've been playing a lot of Generation 1, and in those games, Struggle does half the amount of damage done to the target to the user in recoil damage. But in Generation 2, this was reduced to quarter damage. This change, in combination with Held Berries, lets Lugia sweep through the tower, avoiding the Pokemon Center. I pushed the Struggle strat even further here in the gym by facing the two trainers before Falkner without healing. Because I'm so close to leveling up, I head back to the Pokemon Center and heal after defeating them. At level 11, Lugia is going to learn Safeguard, and then I'll be caught depleting its PP before I can use Struggle again, and that just doesn't make much sense against Falkner. With Aeroblast restored, I'm ready to take him on. He opens with Pidgey. Lugia moves first and knocks it out with Aeroblast. Pidgeotto's next. Aeroblast takes it into red health, Gus does 3 damage to me, and then I earn the first badge. Well, that was probably the easiest Falkner fight that I've ever had. I've used a lot of bug types in this generation, and it just feels so good sweeping him like this. Lugia clocks in with a time of 8 minutes and 5 seconds. Ho-Oh starts with Sacred Fire, its signature move, and it's essentially a fire-type Aeroblast. It does use Ho-Oh's lower offensive stat, unfortunately, but it makes up for that with a 50% chance to burn the target. Yes, a 50% chance to burn. I get this burn on the first turn against the rival. I was really hoping that the 1/8 burn damage each turn would allow Ho-Oh to win in just 2 turns instead of 3, but Totodile survives and forces a 3rd turn anyways. Sacred Fire is obviously great in Sprout Tower. This is a kind of sacred place after all, so it's on theme. After it runs out of PP, I struggle against the Sages, and continue to struggle against the Gym Leader trainers, just as I did with Lugia. Against Falkner, we get a great demonstration of how hard Ho-Oh hits. It knocks both of his Pokemon out with a single hit each, and clocks in with a time of 7 minutes and 55 seconds. So far that's only 10 seconds faster than Lugia. This is a close race. And you know what rhymes with close race? Well, Squarespace, the sponsor of this video. That's definitely my cringiest segue yet. Soon this challenge has to be renamed Linus's Thoughts. Squarespace is an incredible website builder, and I personally use it. As many of you know, I'm a musician, and I have no experience coding, well, until the last 2 or 3 weeks. Without Squarespace, I would have had to pay someone else to build a site for me, or struggle through the process of creating it myself. Squarespace makes this easy and intuitive with their website builder. You can also manage appointment scheduling so you don't have to spend time emailing clients. It also has a video studio so content creators can share their creations with the world. Finally, I'm a fan of data. Hopefully you'll have realized that by watching these Versus videos. Squarespace has powerful analytics tools, and they help you monitor your site so that you can understand how you can best improve. Check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/scottsthougts to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Okay, so let's talk about my PP problems, because both these legendary Pokemon only have 5 PP for offensive moves. To fix this problem, I head to the bottom floor in Union Cave and grab the TM for Swift, which both of them can learn. With Ho-Oh, I head to the Pokemart in Azalea Town because they sell charcoal here, which gives a 10% boost to the damage of fire-type moves. It's really expensive though, so I'll have to wait until I've saved a little bit more to buy it. During these playthroughs, I'm really trying to remember to reorder my moves so that the most frequently used move is at the top of my moveset. While playing at 4 times speed, the ability to just mindlessly spam A really speeds the playthrough up. It's time for Bugsy, and Ho-Oh is obviously prepared for him because, Sacred Fire? It burns through his 2 Cocoon Pokemon, and then Scyther outspeeds. So that's the first time that the base 90 speed has not let Ho-Oh move first. I hope that this isn't going to become a problem. Fury Cutter only does 1 damage here though, and then Sacred Fire completely obliterates the bug. The rival is next, and I actually don't heal before this fight to save time. Sacred Fire one-shots Ghastly, Croconaw is next, and it's the Pokemon that I'm most worried about. However, even with super effective damage, it isn't doing very much to Ho-Oh. That 154 base special defense is so nice. I knock it out and finish the Zubat off with Sacred Fire. They probably shouldn't let me in the forest when I have a move like this. But before that, I need to sell the precious TMs that Falkner and Bugsy gave me so that I can buy a burnt piece of wood for Ho-Oh. The 10% damage boost is going to be really nice. In the forest, I pick up 3 items, a hidden full heal, which is along the main path, this ether, and then this other ether, which is also hidden along the main path. These are going to be key because Sacred Fire is going to be sticking around for the entire playthrough. I heal in Goldenrod Center, fight the trainers in the underground, grab a hidden super potion, and then the coin case. With it, I buy 100 coins and then obtain Abra. Teleport's going to be very useful. Then I get the bike, Kenya the Spearow, face some trainers north of the city, talk to Floria, yes her name is Floria, and then teleport back to Whitney. She opens with Clefairy, and it rolls the dice with Metronome, and it gets Octazooka. Oh no! But luckily for me, it misses, and I knock it out with my second use of Swift. Okay, that's good. Miltank time. The cow is faster than the legendary Phoenix, hits me with Rollout for 4 times damage, doing just less than half. Okay, I am not gonna survive another one of those. Please, Sacred Fire, don't miss. It doesn't, doing massive damage, and Miltank faints. I got a critical hit. Without that, Ho likely would have fainted on the next turn. I'm really going to need a better strategy here next time, but today it clocks in with a time of 18 minutes and 36 seconds after the 3rd gym. Now, in Generation 2, there is a badge boost, and it really helps Lugia. After defeating Falkner, his badge gives your Pokemon's attack stat a 12.5% boost when they enter battle. This boost doesn't appear on the Pokemon's summary sheet, but I'm always going to be including it in the stats that are displayed in the bottom left. As an additional bonus, his badge gives a 12.5% boost to all flying type moves that you use. With this, Lugia's Aeroblast gets a 12.5% attack boost, a 12.5% type boost, and a 50% same type attack bonus. That's an effective power of 190 against neutral targets. So that's one key advantage that this underdog has access to. Ho-Oh won't get a special attack boost until it defeats Price, and it won't get a fire type boost until I defeat Blaine. I guess it's good that I got the charcoal. So making Aeroblast even better is the fact that it's super effective against Bugsy's Pokemon as well, and it takes all of them out with ease. Scyther is last. In this case, Lugia moves first, hits with Aeroblast, and the fight's finished. At the mart, I don't save money because I don't need charcoal. Instead, I grab extra repels and super potions. Hopefully these can minimize the number of times that I have to go to the Pokemon Center throughout this playthrough. Lugia also manages the second rival very easily. There's no threat here because the Aeroblast does more than half damage to his most powerful Pokemon, Croconaw, and despite it having super effective damage with Bite, in this generation it's a special move and it does so little to my buff legendary. I do all the same errands in and around Goldenrod City, and then Lugia is ready to face Whitney as well. Aeroblast 1 hits the Clefairy and then it's Miltank time. But Lugia is faster, Aeroblast crits, and the cow faints in a single hit. Okay then, Lugia clocks in with a time of 19 minutes and 49 seconds. It's impressing me so far. The lead has widened for Ho-Oh, but I think that's mostly because my routing was suboptimal around Goldenrod City with Lugia. Also, Ho-Oh did get very lucky against Miltank. It could have been walled there for quite some time. Now, before I proceed to Ecruteak City, there's an unofficial rule of these playthroughs, and that's that I need to catch or defeat the Pokemon that block my way. So there's 3 of these Pokemon, the Sudowoodo, the Gyarados, and the Snorlax. Unfortunately, Sudowoodo is the first one of these, and it knows Rock Throw, but Lugia can easily withstand a hit. I use Aeroblast, it does 1/4 damage. Sudowoodo picks some bad moves, and then my third attack gets a critical hit and knocks it out. So, that was simple. Before Ecruteak City, I grab a Hidden Ether. This is really important for my PP problems. The Kimono Girls are next. During these fights, Lugia levels up 22 and learns Gust. While this is a big PP move, it's immediately not useful because I get the HM for Surf, and I teach it in its place right away. Believe me, Safeguard needs to stay. I haven't mentioned it until now, and I don't think that I've ever used it before, like in my entire life, but that's going to change very soon. The rival opens with Haunter. I really need to one-hit it to prevent Curse. I use Aeroblast and it gets the job done. Magnemite's next, and this is what Surf is for. It takes it down. Croconaw takes more than half damage from Aeroblast, and Swift knocks it out, and finally Zubat is easy to clean up, despite it confusing me. Next I face the trainers in Morty's gym, and if you examine my PP on the top left of the screen, I didn't actually heal before these fights. That's basically because I want to skip as many Pokemon Center trips as possible. I'm saving 3 uses of Aeroblast just for Morty. So, it's time. I never thought that Safeguard would feel so great to use, because as a kid, it just felt like an insult that these legendaries had it. But Safeguard is the MVP for the Morty fight. Without the ability to use items like Paralyze Heal during battles, preventing status conditions can be key. Also, I want to prevent time backtracking in various regions, so I don't have time to go and grab the Mint Berry yet because I'm going to pass through that route after Morty. I knock out the first Ghastly with Surf. I really don't want it to get Curse. Haunter likely won't go down to a single hit from Surf, but probably from Aeroblast, although I could miss. So instead, I set up Safeguard, which will prevent Gengar from using Hypnosis. Haunter uses Curse as expected, and my next Surf knocks it out, preventing the damage this turn. Okay, it's Gengar time. Lugia uses Aeroblast, and this powerful physical move knocks the Ghost out in a single hit. Without a crit. So yeah, that's that. Because of how much damage Aeroblast is doing, I could have just swept right away, but I don't think that this was the best approach since it has imperfect accuracy. Setting up Safeguard just made this fight much more consistent. Lugia splits at 25 minutes and 8 seconds. Now it's time for the most important part of all of my Johto videos. I'm off to visit Dennis in the lighthouse. At this time, I should note, the very first time that I mentioned Dennis in any of my videos was during the Steelix vs Scizor video. That was my first Johto versus video. And this one is the second one. So everyone, we have to come together and let Dennis know that we see the work that he puts in. We appreciate how he helps me with the algorithm. So everyone, put your Dennis in the comments. Lugia sweeps through the trainers in Chuck's gym with ease. Super effective Aeroblast makes this place so simple. Against Chuck himself, I spend an extra turn setting up Safeguard just in case I miss on the Poliwrath and it uses Hypnosis. Now I'm ready. Primeape goes down, Poliwrath is next, but Aeroblast also one-shots it. Lugia clocks in at 31 minutes and 3 seconds. Remember when I mentioned that rock moves are really scary for Ho-Oh? Yeah, Sudowoodo has Rock Throw. Making matters worse, I forgot to heal. Sacred Fire does just over 1/3, Sudowoodo mimics it. Okay, that's fine. I strangely choose Swift next, and then Sudowoodo uses Rock Throw, but it misses. Good. My next Sacred Fire burns, and with that I finish the fake tree off. I'm so glad that Ho-Oh didn't get hit by Rock Throw. To this point in these playthroughs, both of the Pokemon have been very similar, but things start to diverge now. At the Kimono Girls, Ho-Oh learns Gust, and this is going to be useful for it. It's a 40 base power physical attack, and after Stab, Badge Boost, and Type Boost, it has an effective power of roughly 100. The real advantage of this move though is its PP. This is going to allow Ho-Oh to avoid so many Pokemon Center trips. Time for the rival. Sacred Fire burns through the Haunter. Croconaw takes almost half damage from Gust. Oh well, I can take a few hits here. The fight's easy for Ho-Oh and it's moving on. Instead of using Surf, Ho-Oh can use Gust to make it by all the trainers in Morty's gym without a heal. I reach Morty with 2 PP left on Sacred Fire, and I think this is fine. Gust is going to be enough to manage the ghosts anyways. I sweep the first Ghastly with it, and then I set up Safeguard on the Haunter so that I can use Gust on his following Pokemon. This is very important for Ho-Oh though, because the Haunter used Curse, so now I'm going to be taking damage every turn. Gust can't one-hit the Gengar, I take Curse damage, and then the Gengar uses Shadow Ball before I knock it out. I wasn't sure if Sacred Fire would one-hit it, and the chance to miss would make it less consistent, so I felt that Gust would just be more reliable during this fight. The final Haunter also survives. Ho-Oh takes more Curse damage, but then it wins with Gust. only 35 hit points remaining. That's definitely not the easy sweep that Lugia had. In the lighthouse, I say hi to Dennis again, and here's another reminder for you to put Dennis in the comments. Don't worry if you forget, I'll remind you again. Now, here's how I'm feeling about the Ho-Oh playthrough. Since Whitney, it's really started to feel less and less good. Rollout on Miltank was scary, and then Morty was much closer than it was with Lugia. But one trainer that I'm very worried for is coming up next. Knob. He's named after the game's translator, and this guy has a Machoke that has Rock Slide. I save in front of him to ensure that I can reset in case I fail to knock the fighting type out in a single hit. His initial Machop is easy to take down, so far so good. Machoke time. I use Gust, it does not enough, and then the Machoke uses Rock Slide. But it misses. Oh, it's so good that rock moves never connect. But things don't get easier yet because Chuck has a Poliwrath and it knows Surf. I use Gust against Primeape, that's a one hit. His ace Poliwrath follows. Turn 1, I use Safeguard to prevent Hypnosis. Poliwrath uses Mind Reader, Gust does half damage, and the Fighting Tadpole punches my bird. And then I take it out. Ho-Oh clocks in with a time of 29 minutes and 56 seconds. So Ho-Oh is faster than Lugia, and why is this the case after it matched up so poorly against the last 3 gyms? Well, the reason is what comes between the gyms. All of the NPC battles. With higher offensive stats, Ho-Oh can more regularly one-hit the opponent's Pokemon, leading to a better time. I was aware of this while I was playing, but I had this sinking feeling that the Phoenix might eventually end up at a wall that it just can't defeat. And the typical Johto wall is coming up next. It's time for Jasmine. But today, with Ho-Oh, she's not a wall. Like, come on, I've got Sacred Fire. I do use Safeguard to prevent Thunder Wave from the Magnemites. I don't want to get paralyzed if I miss against one of them. In this fight though, I don't, and her entire team is a clean sweep. I'm off to Mahogany Town now for the second most boring section of any Johto playthrough. The Team Rocket Hideout. Radio Tower is definitely the most boring section, by the way. Right now though, during this time, I'll mention Ho-Oh's nickname of Ash. This is actually what I called my Ho-Oh when I was a kid. Funnily enough, I did this thinking about the Ash that Phoenixes turn into. I thought it was really awesome. Like, oh, my Phoenix, it's called Ash. Not Ash from the anime. It was only after Ho-Oh had been on my team for about a year that I realized that it looked like my cool bird was named after this guy. While my gameplay has improved a lot over the last year, my nicknaming abilities really haven't. Shout out to Andrew Davis, by the way, and his Pokemon challenges. He's always got great nicknames. With the Rockets taken care of, I go head to head with Price. The Ice-type Master starts with a Water-type, quite unfortunate for Ho-Oh. Gust doesn't knock it out, I tank an Icy Wind, lose some speed, and then knock the Seal out. I actually stopped for a moment while I was writing this sentence and thought like, wait, what's the Pokemon's name again? It's Seal, like the animal. Dugong is next. Sacred Fire is neutrally effective, does more than half, and then it burns. I get hit by one Aurora Beam before I knock it out. Piloswine's last. Sacred Fire is enough, and finally I've earned the Glacier Badge, and with it comes a boost to my special attack and special defense. Well, sort of. You will have noticed that I didn't teach Ho-Oh or Lugia Fly when the opportunity passed me by. I don't want to lose a move slot for a 70 base power move that has less than ideal accuracy and takes 2 turns in battle. That's just too slow. Plus, with Lugia, Aeroblast is the far better flying type move. I take on Jasmine next, and honestly I should have grabbed a key item before this, but without it, can I still do it at level 30? I safeguard against the Magnemite, preventing its turn 1 Thunder Wave from doing anything. Surf doesn't one-hit the magnetic bolts, and because of that I take a Thunderbolt. Ouch, that did 1/3 damage. I can't take care of the next one any faster, so I take an additional zap before Steelix comes out. Please, Surf. Please just one-shot it. It doesn't, but Steelix has Iron Tail. This is the only move that has less accuracy than Dynamic Punch, so it misses and I take the win. Now, while I head off to the Lake of Rage with Lugia, I want to explain the stats in the bottom left of the screen. So recently I've been working with some really talented people to test a program that directly connects to the game's RAM. This means that all the data that's displayed on the screen is pulled directly out of the game in real time while I film. One thing that's awesome about this is we can actually see how boosts affect my stats in real time. To make things visually clear for all of you, I'm manually calculating the badge boosts when the correct badge is set to true in the RAM. So when I'm in the overworld, the badge boosts are applied. When I was designing the front end of my program, I noted that my special defense stat was incorrectly calculating when the battle would start. It would jump down from the value that I had in the overworld. But wait, the value that I have in the overworld is the one that I manually calculated. It should be the same as the one that I have in battle when the game calculates the badge boost. So things were a little bit weird here for a bit, and I couldn't figure out why. Why is my special defense too low? Well, it turns out in Generation 2 there is also a badge boost glitch. If your unboosted, and I say, if your unboosted special attack stat is between 0 and 205, or between 433 and 660, the game just skips boosting your special defense. The badge boost helps in Generation 1 and makes things more difficult in Generation 2. Granted, Ho-Oh and Lugia don't need any special defense boosts. It's not going to be very impactful today. It's time for price. Lugia misses against Seal, so it gets a single Icy Wind in before fainting. Dugong is snoozy as it's known to be, and that delays me getting to the Piloswine. I use Surf for super effective damage, but the pig hangs on with a sliver. Price uses a super potion. He's just like, really wants to delay me, but the second Surf gets a better roll and it knocks it out. Lugia gets a great time, 40 minutes and 36 seconds, but Ho-Oh is still in the lead slightly. The Phoenix's lead has again widened, and it's now 1 minute and 45 seconds ahead of its legendary counterpart. From a speedrunning perspective, the main thing that I'm thinking about during this section of the game is my PP. And as you can see my PP now in the top left. Connecting directly with the game's RAM is great. It allows me to pull a lot of this data out of the game in real time. All the most important pieces of data, of course. So it's easier than ever to see when I'm depleting and having PP problems, but I've prepared with the right medicine. All of those ethers I collected early on in the playthrough are useful here to minimize the number of times I need to head back to the Pokemon Center. Knocking out these weak rocket Pokemon is monotonous annoying, and it only makes it longer if I have to head back to the Pokemon Center after every few fights. Lugia only has Surf and Aeroblast at this point because it also has Recover and Safeguard. A piece of feedback that a lot of you have given me over the last year is that I don't always approach Pokemon thinking about their design. I might use, say, a lot of special attacks for super effective damage with a physical attacker, when a neutrally effective stab move might deal more damage instead. For this video, I thought about Ho-Oh being an offensively designed Pokemon, and Lugia being a defensive Pokemon. For this reason, I figured that Lugia would be one-shotting less, and as a result taking more hits in battle. The synergy of Safeguard and Recover gives it significantly more consistency in its battles. Despite it lowering my overall PP reserves, I can now last longer when it really counts. And you know when it doesn't count? Against the rival in the Underground. His whole team is awful here. Lugia knocks them all out with ease. Ho-Oh has less to worry about in regards to PP. It knows Gust, Swift, and Sacred Fire. I easily knock out all of the rocket Pokemon and take on the Executive at the top of the first half of Radio Tower. He leads with Coughing. I'm out of Sacred Fire at this point, so I'm going to need to hit these bulky pink Poison Puffs. But doing this allows them to use one move per turn, and the third one uses Sludge, poisoning me. Well, that's exactly what my Poison Cure Berry was for. But Weezing heard me, it uses Sludge and poisons Ho-Oh again. That's really annoying. But guess what's more annoying? Explosion. Weezing does so much damage, and Ho-Oh faints. That is the first reset of this entire video, and it was against a Rocket Executive. I should have been a little bit more conservative and used Recover at some point in that fight. I think I was being a little bit overconfident. On Ho-Oh's next attempt, it's able to win. I'm pretty sure that it was just a fluke to lose there, not an actual barrier that Ho-Oh needs a different moveset or planning for. I take out the rival next, teach Ho-Oh Return. This move is required to make an appearance in all Johto videos after all, and the main reason that Ho-Oh needs it is because Claire is coming up next. Without an Ice-type move, I really don't have a strong option against her. In Ice Path, I grab my favorite item, the PP Up, and then I make a short trip south of Blackthorn City to grab an additional one. With these, Sacred Fire can now be used 7 times. But that won't make an impact yet, because I have to get by Claire next. She opens with Dragonair. I use Return, it doesn't KO, Thunder Wave paralyzes Ho-Oh, and then her first team member goes down to my second return. Against the following two, I decide to take things slower with Recover, because Paralysis is really going to mess me up. I make it all the way to the Kingdra. It hits me with Surf, I can't move, I try for Recover, I fail to move again, and then it knocks Ho-Oh out. That's the second reset, and this might be a wall, because all of her Dragonairs have Thunder Wave. I checked my bag for Paralyzed Cure Berry, but I was out. So I try again with the same moveset and strategy. This time the first Dragonair fails its Thunder Wave, and I proceed status free. The second one gets me though, and I take Thunderbolt before I knock it out. At the third one, I recover so that I proceed to the Kingdra with full health. Please don't mess me up, Paralysis. Please. I tank a Surf, move first with Return, doing half damage. Ho-Oh tanks another Surf, and then Return strikes again. Claire is no more. Ho-Oh clocks in with a time of 55 minutes and 33 seconds. Generation 2 introduced the Move Deleter, and I'm so thankful for him. Bro, you are the best. Can you please take a trip to Kanto though and time travel back to Pokemon Yellow for me? That would be really nice. Also, if you could take some classes and learn to teach Pokemon old moves, that would also be perfect. Today, I delete Surf from Lugia's move pool and replace it with Icy Wind just before Claire. Holding the Never Melt Ice, Lugia takes her on. Because I've kept Safeguard to this point, I use it right away to prevent Dragonair's Thunder Wave. It uses this move on the first turn of every battle after all. So I get my guard up for free. Turn 2, Icy Wind does a lot of damage, I tank a Surf well, and then I knock the Dragonair out. I'm going to pass on Hydro Pump here. I really don't want that accuracy. After that, it's time for the second Dragonair. What's up with these Dragon Masters having multiple Dragonairs, by the way? Anyways, by the third one, I reset my Safeguard, do slightly inefficient healing, and then I move on to the Kingdra. I use Aeroblast, and it does so much. Kingdra falls to a single critical hit. Lugia clocks in with a time of 56 minutes and 35 seconds, 1 minute and 2 seconds behind Ho-Oh. In the Dragon's Den, I grab myself a Dratini, I turn it into a Waterfall Mule right away, which lets me scour the region for rare candies. Another item that I grab on my way is the Sharp Beak for Lugia. I could have picked this item up earlier, but I just forgot. In Victory Road, I pick up the TM for Earthquake, because it makes sense that these two birds learn it, right? Let's reflect on the fact that Lugia and Ho-Oh learn Mudslap and Earthquake via TM, and Gligar, a ground type, does not. That still gets me. Both Ho-Oh and Lugia have no problems facing the final rival, so I'm not even going to talk about him. They've arrived at the league, Lugia without resets and Ho-Oh with only 2. But now how will these two fare against the league? It has trainers like Bruno in it after all, and I'm not joking, Bruno could be extremely scary today, but I'm hoping that he won't be. Will Lugia and Ho-Oh stay this close together throughout the league, or will one take a big advantage? Let's find out. Will is the first in the lineup. With Lugia, my strategy was to keep the moves that I've used up to this point so that I can have them for the other members of the league. This makes the fight take longer than it would have if I added a move like Shadow Ball to my learn set. Still, without it, the victory is easy. Going into the fight against Koga, I was taking the same approach. I wanted to retain Safeguard because I think it's going to be useful against Lance. His Dragonites love to use Thunder Wave. But this line of thinking leads to a problem. I'm doing almost no damage to the Muck with Icy Wind, and then it poisons me with Sludge. I should have probably tried to use Aeroblast here to knock it out, but I was saving it for Venomoth, and I really don't want to use it against a minimized Muck. Also, I really should be using Recover. This fight's a bit hard to watch back, and all these mistakes lead to a first reset for Lugia. The obvious choice is to replace Safeguard with Earthquake. This lets Lugia have super effective damage against the Muck. With it, I'm able to defeat Koga on my next attempt. Now it's time for Bruno. The reason I'm worried about him is because of his Machamp. It's fairly bulky, and it knows Rock Slide. However, Lugia is well equipped for this fight. Aeroblast for the Hitmontop, Icy Wind for the Onix, and then back to Aeroblast for the potential sweep. Please just one-hit the Machamp. It does, and Lugia's moving on. As I'm writing this, I'm actually realizing that the Johto Elite Four is actually pretty good. Everyone except Will has serious threats on their teams. Karen starts with Umbreon, and she loves to use Sand Attack turn 1. I miss one Aeroblast as a result before I take it out. Now Dark-type is super effective against Lugia, but my special defense stat makes that not really a problem, and most of Karen's Pokemon are really defensive anyways. This battle is very straightforward. Last is Dragon Master Lance. I've kept Icy Wind specifically for him. Aeroblast does a lot of damage to Gyarados, it sets up Rain Dance because it doesn't remember that Lugia is in fact a water type, and then Icy Wind takes care of it. Dragonite's next. I was hoping to do enough damage with Icy Wind, but it survives and paralyzes me with Thunder Wave. Wait, I forgot the Never Melt Ice. Oh dear. I take 2 Thunders before I manage to knock the first dragon out. The second one knows Blizzard though, and because of paralysis, I keep missing my turn, and this leads to Lugia's second reset. I think this one's a simple fix. I'm just going to give Lugia the Never Melt Ice. Because I no longer have the Sharp Beak, the Gyarados ends up taking 3 turns, so that's not better. And then, even with some extra freezing powers, the Dragonite still survives and paralyzes me. But Rain Dance has worn off because the fight against Gyarados took longer, and that means that Thunder is terribly inaccurate again. So it misses, and I knock the first Dragonite out. The second one uses Hyper Beam, which grants me a second turn to use Icy Wind and knock it out. Now, it's time for Lance's Aerodactyl, and this thing is proof that he's cheating. It knows Rock Slide, despite Aerodactyl not being able to learn Rock Slide in Generation 1 or 2. Lugia tanks it well, does more than half damage with Icy Wind, and Aerodactyl takes me down to 43 hit points. Please, Paralysis. I need this heal. I get it, but the rocks slide, cause a flinch, and so I have to heal again. I continue to heal up until I'm confident that I can attack, and of course at that moment Rock Slide gets a crit. I still connect, and now I'm moving on to the Charizard with 40 speed and a status condition. I select Recover, it uses Flamethrower, Lugia survives, because it's a water type, right? And then I heal. The fight continues. I heal one more time, and now that I'm in green health, I strike back with Aeroblast, followed by an Icy Wind for the KO. Dragonite is all that's left. Lugia is paralyzed. I get hit with Outrage. It's a special move in this generation, so it doesn't do that much. I have to survive one more. I get it, and then I heal up. I'll just say, Lugia's speed makes more sense now. Going first with recovery moves makes things way more reliable. It also makes setting up moves like Safeguard a sure thing. If I only could have kept that move through the early portions of the league, maybe I can find a way to do it on the next playthrough. The side effect of Outrage though is confusion, and I was hoping that it would give me an opening to attack, but it doesn't. I just have to heal over and over until the opportunity arises. Lugia defeats Lance at 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 14 seconds, at level 50 with 2 resets. That's a game time of 4 hours and 30 minutes. In contrast with Lugia, I haven't been trying to keep Safeguard this entire time with Ho-Oh. That gives it more moveset flexibility. This allows me to teach it Shadow Ball for Will. I swear that I always slip with this move and say that it's a special move. In Generation 4, it is, but in Generation 2 it's a physical move, and that makes use of Ho-Oh's incredible attack stat. Will is a clean sweep. Moveset flexibility is really nice now because I can remove Shadow Ball right away for Earthquake. It might appear that I learned this lesson with Lugia and that now I'm applying it to my Ho-Oh playthrough, but that actually isn't the case. I've reordered this footage in post. I actually played the Lugia playthrough second. Koga's team is very simple for Ho-Oh to manage. The only Pokemon here that can get annoying is Crobat. It even poisons me, but I'm going too fast so the toxic counter doesn't have a chance to get too high. But the Fiery Phoenix has a problem coming up next. Bruno. The only good flying type move that Ho-Oh learns at this point is Fly, and teaching it now would mean that I have to take it with me for the rest of the league. Also, letting go of Earthquake, Sacred Fire, or Recover does not seem like a good choice. If I remove one of those, I'm not going to be able to get them back for the rest of the playthrough. I also wanted to keep Return because it's a strong move that is neutral against most enemies. I'm banking on Ho-Oh's raw offense for this fight. I get through his first 3 Pokemon in an uninspiring fashion. The first 2 fighting types have survived my Sacred Fires to this point, and the following Machamp is even more terrifying. I use Return, fearing that I'll miss with Sacred Fire, it does more than half, and then Machamp uses Rock Slide. Please survive the 4 times damage. Ho-Oh survives with 9 hit points and takes the Machamp down the next turn. I was pretty scared, so I decided to recover here, even though Hitmonlee is next, and the reason that it's last is it doesn't know any moves that are effective against Ho-Oh, so I clean it up and I'm moving on to Karen. Umbreon gets a Sand Attack on its first turn, but in a surprising turn of events, Ho-Oh refuses to miss. Like, this shouldn't be possible. The AI used Sand Attack, I should be missing every attack here. Anyways, it looks like I'm off to Lance after an easy win. Now, his Aerodactyl is the thing that I'm most scared of for Ho-Oh. My plan here is to use Dragon Breath for super effective damage against the Dragonites in place of Icy Wind because Ho-Oh doesn't learn it. Unfortunately, this makes Gyarados annoying to fight. Rain Dance plus Surf is not something that I want to be going up against. However, after some bad choices by Lance, I fully heal and move on. Dragon Breath does half damage to Dragonite. Okay, let's pause for a second. So I planned this out so I could hold the Dragon Fang to boost Dragon Breath's damage, but what I didn't realize is that the Dragon Fang is actually glitched in Generation 2. Due to a programming oversight, the Dragon Scale is actually the item that boosts Dragon-type attacks. The Dragon Fang has no held effect at all. These are the things that you learn while you fact-check your scripts, I guess. Yes, I am trying to be more rigorous with the fact-checking these days, so hopefully you notice that. Okay, back to the fight. Thunder Wave connects and Ho-Oh is paralyzed. 34 speed. It's strange seeing a legendary that slow. I make it to Aerodactyl. Sacred Fire is my best bet here. Aerodactyl moves first, does massive damage with Rock Slide, causes a flinch, and that's that. This wasn't inspiring. You can see from my inventory footage that I'm a bit shook up here. I decided to use some rare candies to boost Ho-Oh's damage for the next fight. I also make the radical choice to unlearn Sacred Fire, letting me keep Return for Gyarados. I can do this because Ho-Oh learns Flamethrower from the move tutor, and he's available as soon as I finish the league. Also, it's only 5 base power less and bumps up my accuracy to 100%. Honestly, a pretty good trade. Dragonite paralyzes me, the second one gets a hit in before it faints. I'm hoping that at level 56 it'll make Aerodactyl manageable. It misses Rock Slide, Ho-Oh has to use Dragon Breath, it does less than half, Rock Slide takes me into the red, and my second Dragon Breath does the same amount, so Aerodactyl gets one more move. And strangely, Lance chooses Hyper Beam, and Ho-Oh survives with 1 hit point. While this is incredibly exciting, I can't outspeed the Charizard that follows, and Gen 1 misses aren't a thing, so there's no hope. That's another reset. I tried again with this exact same strategy, but Aerodactyl punishes me. I'm not going to make it through like this. Maybe I need to play dirty. I try again with Swagger, but boosting Aerodactyl's attack just feels so awful the first time I do it. I'm just like, no, not doing that anymore. So Lugia's time has passed me by now. The pressure is on. Ho-Oh needs to get this done. I'm trying a strategy with Charcoal, Sunny Day, and Sacred Fire now. The issue here is still the paralysis, and that makes Aerodactyl way too challenging. Of course, the solution here is a Paralyzed Cure Berry, but I still don't have one. Believe me, I checked multiple times. During my 6th fight, I was feeling really hopeless because this just isn't working. I might very well fail this first Ho-Oh playthrough because I didn't plan well enough. Hidden Power Ice would have been a game changer here, and it comes at the price of only 2 defense DVs. I'm really regretting just going into this with perfect stats. But then Dragonite 1 misses its Thunder Wave. You might ask how, because Thunder Wave has 100% accuracy before Generation 7. Well, in Generation 1 and 2, the AI has a 25% chance to fail most of its status moves. The moves that can miss are flagged this way in the ROM, actually. And today, Ho-Oh gets 2 Thunder Wave misses, allowing it to get to Aerodactyl without a status condition for the first time. And then, in this hopeless hour, something I had forgotten this entire time comes through for me. Sacred Fire burns Aerodactyl. That cuts its damage by half, allowing Ho-Oh to reach Charizard without a status condition, and in green health. This is it. I can do it. I heal, and I knock the lizard out in 2 turns. Dragonite time. It's using Outrage, but my special defense is so buff. Ho-Oh clocks in with a time of 1 hour, 15 minutes, and 12 seconds, at level 57 with 7 resets, and a game time of 4 hours and 21 minutes. Clearly, these results are 1 minute too slow in game time and 12 levels too low. Okay, so that's that. It's time for playthrough number 2. I don't have time for Kanto and Red in these versus videos. I do need to spend time with my girlfriend after all. Did I get you? Of course I'm gonna do Kanto and Red. I can't stop now. Any Generation 2 playthrough just feels incomplete without defeating him. One thing about Kanto that you'll know if you've played these games yourself is that the trainers here are not very good. They're really bad. By the time you beat the Elite Four, the gym leaders like Sabrina just don't feel particularly strong. As a kid, I was always disappointed because of this. I wanted these fights to be really challenging. For Lugia, it gets access to Psychic during this portion of the game, but I'm going to skip it because it isn't super effective against any of the key members of Blue or Red's teams. For Blue, I'm using the most Blue strategy. Rain Dance and Surf. Fitting for a water type, right? If we really think about it though, this is completely pointless. Pidgeot was a 2-hit anyways. Rhydon is going to go down to a single Surf. Aeroblast for physical damage against Alakazam, and then Gyarados comes out, and it likes to set up Rain Dance anyways. So yeah, what a waste. Also, I should note that it sets up Rain Dance right before Blue's Arcanine hits the field. So yeah, they really didn't program the AI to recognize weather. That's a small change that I would like to make to improve the difficulty of these games. Lugia sweeps his team and takes an easy victory. Ho-Oh's typing doesn't match up as well against the leaders in Kanto. Misty's the first one that I'm worried about, but you'll notice that I have Thunderbolt for this fight. I also wanted to get Flamethrower for the improved accuracy, but I didn't have enough money to buy the coins for both. It's just lucky that I reset over the save where I deleted Sacred Fire. With Electricity on my side, I'm able to defeat Misty and take the victory. Surge is also a bit scary because I don't have Earthquake anymore. That's one reason I wanted to keep it through Lance. Still, I managed to defeat him because, like I said, these gym leaders are bad. Brock is a Rock-type gym leader, and you would think that he's going to be really great against Ho-Oh. But yeah, the fossils are part Water-type, so Thunderbolt zaps them out of the way, and then Sacred Fire is fine to deal with all of the ground types. Yes, using a Fire-type move against a Rock-type is fine, because they have such poor special defense. But will Blue be this easy? Pidgeot leads, and Thunderbolt's a one-hit. I use Sacred Fire against Rhydon because it's the best move I have. It uses Fury Attack, giving me a turn 2 knockout. Gyarados sets up the Rain, and it has too much health remaining after my first hit, so it's not going to get a full restore and I knock it out. Alakazam's a one-hit, Arcanine's Extreme Speed does almost nothing, and Exeggutor is a Grass type, so that was easy. But the strongest trainer in the game is waiting for both of these legendaries in Mount Silver. With Ho-Oh, I only have 3 rare candies because I used the majority of them against Lance. I'll have to defeat Red at level 66, or training is going to be required. He starts with Pikachu, and return 1 hits it. Because the AI selects the Pokemon that they think will be super effective against yours, he sends out Blastoise next. Perfect. I have Thunderbolt to deal with this thing. The turtle knows that it can't one-hit me, so instead it sets up Rain Dance, and then falls to my second hit. Espeon time. Return does more than half and it sets up Reflect. This is going to make the following Snorlax awful. However, the rain wears off just in time, allowing me to get in one Sacred Fire just before Snorlax uses Amnesia. And then Return does almost nothing. Oh no. Using Rest, this thing might be able to indefinitely stall me out if I can't do good damage. And eventually, it is going to paralyze me with Body Slam. But then Red fails to use Rest, and Ho-Oh knocks the Sleepy Bear out. Thunderbolt easily manages Charizard, and Sacred Fire is the obvious choice for Venusaur. Ho-Oh finishes the game at 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 18 seconds, at level 67 with 7 resets and a game time of 5 hours and 51 minutes. The question is, can Lugia beat this time? I arrive at Red with a decent lead. The fact that I've had less resets is the reason for this. Against Pikachu, I use Surf, get a critical hit, and knock it out. Blastoise is next. It sets up Rain Dance, and this makes me realize just how silly it is for me to have it on my moveset in these final 2 fights. Espeon sets up Reflect for Snorlax, and then things get slow. I can't deal enough damage to knock it out before it uses Rest. Body Slam paralyzes, and that cuts my consistency. I decide to reset before Lugia faints, just to save time. I come back with Return in the place of Rain Dance, but then Pikachu hits me with Charm, ruining my attack stat. At Blastoise, I realize that this is going to ruin my chances against the Snorlax, and so I reset again. Since Surf is a roll against Pikachu, I use Return instead, and it knocks the Electric Rodent out in 1 hit. Blastoise faints to 3 hits, and it gets a massive Blizzard crit on the way. I damage the Espeon, get taken into red, and then I heal with Rest. I've given up Recover because I want to be able to heal Paralysis when the Snorlax gets it. With Rest, I can potentially stall the bear out too because I won't be consuming PP when I'm asleep, but the Snorlax will, with Snore. But this worst case scenario doesn't play out. Aeroblast is doing enough damage for me to knock it out while it sleeps. I take things slow against Charizard because I don't want to let this result slip through my fingers. It takes me back into orange health. I decide to just go for it. Please, Aeroblast, don't miss Venusaur. It doesn't, and Lugia beats the game with a time of 1 hour, 36 minutes, and 49 seconds, at level 68 with 4 resets and a game time of 6 hours and 1 minute. I did not expect this. Lugia outperforming is a shock to me because as a kid it just felt so much worse than Ho-Oh. Now if we consider level of finish and game time, Ho-Oh did outperform, but that misses the point. Ho-Oh just felt worse to use. It's fragile, and the 4 times damage from rock moves end up affecting it at the worst possible time, when it has to face Lance, a trainer that it only has Dragon Breath as coverage against. For me, I'm always interested to see what I can do if I eliminate as much player error as possible and change up my strategy. These are variables that really need to be explored and accounted for. If, after optimization, Lugia can still win, then I'll have to declare it the winner. So here's what I learned after testing and follow-up playthroughs. It's time for some optimization. Previously, on the first routes, I was fighting wild encounters, but this is just a waste of time. Running away from all of them is the best approach. Falkner is largely the same. The key thing here is to heal right after the second Bird Keeper in the gym so that Lugia and Ho-Oh don't learn Safeguard while their damage-dealing move is depleted. From there, Falkner's easy to defeat. South of Violet City, there's this tree. It's a Paralyzed Cure Berry tree, so yeah, I take that and I'm going to save it for later. It obviously might be key. Bugsy is an easy sweep, and the second rival as well. In Goldenrod, for the first time, I needed to do a test. Ho-Oh has a serious problem against Miltank. It didn't outspeed last time, and Rollout did so much damage. Banking on Sacred Fire to burn or a Rollout miss doesn't seem like a good thing to do. I want to move first to make the fight fully consistent and ensure that I only take 1 turn of Rollout damage. To do this, my Ho-Oh with perfect speed needs to be level 20. If its speed isn't perfect, I would recommend 21 as a safe bet. This does slow the Phoenix's time down a little bit because it has to spend some extra time training. For Lugia, Whitney's manageable at the level it arrives at. There's no need for extra training here. I was worried about Sudowoodo with Ho-Oh, but it ends up not being a concern at all. Obviously, you can just run away from it if you don't want to face it, but where's the fun in that? For Morty, I followed the same strategy that I used before, use Safeguard to prevent Hypnosis and then sweep his team. Both of them are completely consistent with this strategy. Okay, most important part of the video, this is the final Dennis reminder. Show him your love by writing Dennis in the comments. By the way, the last time I asked you to do this, it made that my most commented video of all time, with 2,250 comments. So do you think we can beat it this time on this video? I believe we can. I believe in Dennis. Safeguard strategies work again for Chuck. You'll notice that I've been speeding through these playthroughs because honestly the first half of the game plays out largely the same way that it did last time. I've got some minor optimizations and I'm making some better move choices along the way. The first major departure comes after Ho-Oh defeats Jasmine. At the Lake of Rage, I take the time to grab the TM for Hidden Power. I've set my DVs to 15, 13, 15, 15 so that Ho-Oh gets a 70 base power Hidden Power Ice. This is going to be so useful later on, especially in combination with the Nevermelt Ice. I will mention that I intentionally kept Safeguard for the rocket boss at the top of the first half of the radio tower. I refuse to lose here again. Swift prevents smokescreen tactics, and Safeguard prevents poison. I can also use Recover if my health drops too much, and hopefully that'll allow me to survive Weezing's explosion. But I didn't need to worry this time because it doesn't blow up. Against Claire, you'll notice that I didn't heal, I didn't teach Hidden Power, and I didn't give Ho-Oh the Never Melt Ice. Those tactics are reserved for later. I saved Safeguard to this point to prevent paralysis. By doing this, I know that I have the time I need to heal with Recover. The Dragoners always use Thunder Wave as I said before. In comparison with my first playthrough, I'm only able to clock in 1 minute and 11 seconds faster in this Claire split. But with this Pokemon, I think that's quite an improvement. Also, the major delays that Ho-Oh faced are still ahead of it, so I still think I can save a lot of time there. Now, I can teach Shadow Ball in the place of Safeguard for Will. Preventing status conditions has helped to this point, but for Ho-Oh it isn't required anymore. I'll point out here that Ho-Oh is holding the Amulet coin through these fights. I'm so confident here, and I want to earn extra money so that buying Thunderbolt from the move tutor is going to be easy. This way, I don't have to be extra careful with my purchases early on throughout the playthrough. I did hope that it would give me enough money to learn Flamethrower as well, but it turns out that it doesn't. Against Koga, I put off learning Earthquake in favor of adding Fly to my moveset. It's super effective against bug types, also it's great against the grass type Venomoth. I don't have a super effective answer for Muck or Crobat, but Sacred Fire or Return is enough. The real reason that I learned Fly though is because of Bruno. Being able to hit his fighting types with super effective damage is key. Note that I'm not using it against the Hitmontop. This thing has Detect, and Bruno loves to spam it if you use a 2-turn move, so here it's just going to be a waste of time. Hidden Power Ice manages the Onix in a single hit, and now I can use Fly to sweep the remaining members of his team, including the Machamp. Avoiding Rock Slide feels so good. For Karen, I'm bringing in a Bitterberry. She has what feels like a fixed turn order. Turn 1, she likes to use Sand Attack, which I can prevent with Fly, and then turn 2, she uses Confuse Ray, which is countered by the Berry. Fly doesn't one-hit the Gengar, it uses Lick, and Ho-Oh gets paralyzed. So despite my best efforts, this fight is gonna get messy. Hidden Power one-hits the Murkrow, the Houndoom that follows takes a while to knock out, it gets healed, I heal, and I'm using Fly so it takes some time. It finally goes down and all that's left is Vileplume. It can't do much to Ho-Oh, and so I'm moving on to Lance. This fight was by far the most difficult in my first playthrough, but my new moveset is so much better. Turn 1 Hidden Power Ice on the Gyarados for neutral damage. This gives me a one-hit with my following Fly. However, it misses, and I take a rain-boosted Surf as a result before knocking his lead out. Now I'm hoping that Hidden Power will be enough to manage the Dragonites. And it is. This means that I can consistently get to Aerodactyl without a status condition. Ice type is strong against it as well, and today I get lucky with a crit and knock it out in one turn. From there, Charizard and the final Dragonite are simple. Ho-Oh, in its 4th playthrough, clocks in with a time of 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 8 seconds. That's 12 minutes faster than my first attempt. This strategy is so much better. So was I able to find the same amount of optimizations to speed Lugia up? Well, I certainly tried. One thing that I can do after obtaining Fly is head to Cherry Grove City and get the Mystic Water. This boosts Lugia's water-type attacks by 10%, and that makes Jasmine an easy victory. Like Stab, Stab plus 10% boost, it's pretty good, yeah, she's easy. At Claire I can use Icy Wind and the Never Melt Ice. Safeguard protects me in this fight, and it's very easy as a result. Funnily enough, Aeroblast again crits the Kingdra, giving Lugia 2 efficient wins in this gym. By the way, in playthrough 2 I also got a crit, so 3 out of 4 times Lugia crit the Kingler. That's pretty awesome. Now in the first playthrough I kept Safeguard on my moveset for the League. This led to a defeat against Koga, which was entirely preventable. I'm not going to make that mistake today. Shadow Ball and Return speed up the Will fight. At Koga I teach Earthquake, this move is going to stick around for the rest of the run. I'm using Sharp Beak for the extra damage with Aeroblast, and with it his team's simple, so that's 1 reset prevented. For Bruno I have everything I need. Earthquake for Onix, Aeroblast for the fighting types. Sandstorm does get really annoying and it brings me into orange health, but it's not a threat because I can always heal with Recover if I need to. And then things take a turn for the worse. Return doesn't do very much damage to Umbreon, it Sand Attacks, my follow-up Aeroblast doesn't KO, it does damage with a super effective Feint Attack, and then finally goes down. At least it didn't get another Sand Attack, but with my accuracy cut I was worried for the rest of the fight. Murkrow luckily is a one-hit, I miss against Houndoom, it gets me with a Crunch. Please Earthquake, connect. It does, and because of that I'm headed to the champion after cleaning up her final 2 team members. For Lance, I've also decided to give Lugia a Hidden Power Ice. Giving up the 2 defense DVs for this playthrough is honestly totally fine, especially when it's such a defensive monster. Aeroblast crits the Gyarados, and Hidden Power has just the damage it needs to one-shot both Dragonites, allowing me to proceed status-free. Aerodactyl can't KO me, and his final 2 team members can't either. Lugia clocks in with a time of 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 8 seconds. That's 5 minutes and 6 seconds faster. It isn't the gain that I achieved with Ho-Oh, but it's still something that I'm proud of. Hidden Power Ice continues to be useful for Lugia in defeating Erica in Kanto. Her gym is filled with so many women, and the PP of Aeroblast is just not enough to manage all of them. Having an Ice Cool move with this much PP prevents at least one trip to Nurse Joy. Now, let's address Psychic, because last time I didn't use it, but this time I do. Rain Dance and Surf aren't very good together, because Lugia is in fact not a water type, despite it being found on the water, by a waterfall, and being the Lord of the Sea. Also, it's nicknamed Sea, and that's because I needed a nickname that was 3 letters so that it would be identical in length to Ho-Oh's, you know, for fairness. Yes, I do know that the naming process at the start of the game isn't exactly the same number of inputs, but these are concessions that I make for flavorful content. I did plan to add Rest to my moveset to heal Paralysis as early as Lance in case I didn't one-hit the Dragonite, but it turns out that this isn't required. Instead, just keeping Recover all the way until Red is fine, because Blue is a complete pushover. And with that, I'm ready to face Red again. He opens with Pikachu. Earthquake's here to prevent this little mouse from using Charm. Please tell me in the comments that Pikachu is not a mouse and that it's based on a completely different rodent. Yeah, it'll help us reach our goal of at least 2,550 comments. Blastoise takes 2 hits, it does damage with Blizzard, no crit, so that's good. Espeon uses Psychic and faints, no Reflect for Snorlax. Because Lugia is more defensive, I'm using Rest now instead of Recover to counter the Paralysis. Also the Sharp Beak's here to improve my damage output with Aeroblast. I score a critical hit on the second turn against Snorlax, and I knock it out. Charizard's next, I do half damage, and then it hits me with Flamethrower. This did so much damage and got a burn. Lugia's fast though, and Rest fully heals me. Charizard just needs to not get another critical hit. It doesn't, and after that, Venusaur gets Aeroblasted away, earning Lugia a final time of 1 hour, 25 minutes, and 22 seconds at level 68. That's a game time of 5 hours and 34 minutes. But most importantly, I was really excited about this. This is my first playthrough that I've completed that didn't have any resets. For Ho-Oh, I used the move deleter to get rid of Fly after the league, and then I used the move tutor to learn Thunderbolt. And because I've defeated Lance, I can teach Earthquake in the place of Hidden Power. In all 4 playthroughs, Blue was a pushover against Ho-Oh. It's true that Rhydon does survive my attack, but it doesn't actually matter that much. Despite it knowing Rock Slide, it just knows that it can't one-hit me, so it decides to set up Sandstorm on the first turn of all the fights. So Ho-Oh is off to face its final challenge of the day, Red. No resets so far, and using Hidden Power for Lance allowed me to save all my rare candies until now. That puts me 1 level higher than my first playthrough. Earthquake one-shots the Pikachu, Blastoise sets up Rain Dance and gets 2 hit by Thunderbolt, Espeon uses Psychic instead of Reflect. That is going to make Snorlax easier, but I've also prepared here by bringing a Paralyzed Cure Berry. I use Earthquake right away because it's a physical move. I have the damage ranges that I need to knock it out in 3 turns, and that means that I'm never going to be moving on with Paralysis. Snorlax always uses Amnesia first turn. All that's left here is cleaning up the Charizard and the Venusaur, and both are easy. Ho-Oh clocks in with an incredible time of 1 hour, 23 minutes, and 5 seconds. So here are the results from my final 2 playthroughs. Lugia finishes 2 minutes and 17 seconds slower than Ho-Oh, and at the same level. Both have no resets, and Ho-Oh is 6 minutes of in-game time faster. Here are all the results from the 4 playthroughs I did with each one of them. I think that the results are quite clear. Lugia is a more solid, well-rounded choice. It's incredibly fast both through the game and in battles, plus its defense allows you to be more confident in nearly every battle. I found it more intuitive and easy to play with because of its lack of double weaknesses, and that's why I got a better result with it on my first playthrough. Ho-Oh though is the clear overall winner, although by a small margin, much smaller than I expected. Lugia was able to keep pace because its offensive stats are honestly still really good. Ho-Oh has 2 spots where you have to think really carefully, specifically Bruno's Machamp and Lance's Aerodactyl. If you're not extremely careful, I guess Blue's Rhydon could pose a serious threat, but it didn't turn out to be the case for me. However, once I was able to figure out held items and learn sets, Ho-Oh just was faster. One thing that I do want to note here though, is that if my rules disallowed setting Hidden Power's type, I think that Ho-Oh would be significantly disadvantaged. It's my hypothesis that in that circumstance, it would lose to Lugia. As a kid, I really didn't like Lugia, but after playing this video with it, I really have learned to appreciate it a lot more. Now, let's rank these Titans in my tier list. One reason that I did this video is that I want to see what true S-Class performance looks like in Generation 2. Both Ho-Oh and Lugia earn a spot in this top tier, with Ho-Oh placing just slightly ahead. You will notice that my tier list got reset recently when I started recording game time and playing at 4 times speed instead of 3 times speed. I do intend to replay the Pokemon that I've done before and re-rank them fairly, so check me out on Twitch if you want to follow along with those repeat playthroughs when I do them. You'll note that I still have all these Pokemon checked off in my challenge decks. After all, these videos take a lot of time to make, so I have no idea when I'll get around to the replays. In Generation 2, I have a similar challenge deck's ambition as I do in Generation 1. I want to play the game with every single evolutionary line in the game. I won't be doing any runs in these games where I prevent Pokemon from evolving though, so that's a change that I'm making from my Pokemon Yellow content. I'm happy to be back in Johto. Stay tuned for more Generation 2 videos which are coming to this channel soon. Like, subscribe, bring the Chimecho for more content, and leave a comment because I gotta read them all. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. They are keeping the Pokemon content alive, so go check them out. Another reason I'm able to dedicate this much time to creating these videos is because of the support of so many amazing people like you on Patreon. If you want to help out, check out the link in the description. Now finally, if you've made it this far, you're incredible. Now it's bloopers time. Well, at least that siren is in a really narrow frequency band. I can just filter that out. I guess it's not a siren. It's like a backing up sound for a truck. One time I was writing a piece, and in the piece, I was like writing it. It was for like oboe and like flute and stuff. And there was this like really annoying truck that was outside my house, and it was just pissing me off. And I was just like, all right, the oboe is just making that like beep, 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 beep sound. It's just going to be the truck. And then I got to the rehearsal, and the oboe player was just like, what am I doing? Like, why do I just play this note really high, really annoyingly, like over and over and over again? I'm like, dude, you're a truck. And he was like, yeah, he loved it. I've never seen someone so excited to play a repeated note over and over and over again. Ho-ho does... Ho-ho. I used to say ho-ho as a kid. Like Santa? Ho-ho. It's like, it's the Christmas bird. No, that's Delibird. For Lugia, I also replaced Cyndaquil because access to water moves makes Ficing a firefight type. Ah. Now, against Faulkner, we get a great demonstrate... Now, against Faulkner, we get a great... Now, against Faulkner, we get a great... Like, I'm just like trying to like be hype about this line, but then just not working. Ah! Sacred Fire one-shots the Ghastly. Crocona. Oh my gosh, there's like something scraping metal outside and it's so loud. Ah! I just want to record a Pokemon video. Let me do it, world. Stop it. You don't have to repair the road. Squarespace? Squarespace? Squarespace. Oh my gosh, a huge truck. It's a truck. It's so loud.